Hello, everyone. It's Sarah Howard Nelson with the Humor and Chaos podcast, and I am coming to you from a Starbucks. Um, I don't even know where I am, somewhere. Excuse me. Oh, I just hit the table. I'm somewhere out here in the Meridian area outside of Boise. I still don't know this town very well. I've now lived here for over a year, and I still don't know this town very well. Uh, but I'm outside of a Starbucks, and today's featured guest is myself. Actually, I'd say that today's featured guest is a particular topic that I wanted to do separately. Um, and I'll talk about it in just a second. But first, just to get legal stuff out of the way and all that, Humor and Chaos podcast. I am a resilience certified life coach and a certified art therapy practitioner. And I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a licensed counselor. I'm not any of that. If you need that, please go get that. I am a life coach and plenty experience to back that up, which I will actually be talking about in this episode. And also, quick note that I try to say in all of my episodes, if you or somebody you know would be a great guest, please send me an email at humorinchaos@gmail.com because I am still looking for some guests, even though I'm going to start running out of slots soon. This podcast does have a final date, at least for the Searching for Joy series, based on the blog post, Humor and Chaos Searching for Joy. But this is when I've gotten through the book, this podcast series will be over. Anyway, today's podcast is about a particular topic that I find people really do not like to talk about. And it's something that desperately needs to be discussed. There are a few people out there, some experts out there, but not many. I would say most people would prefer to publicly talk about their sex lives rather than talk about this topic. And that topic is apologizing. No one likes talking about apologizing. And, people talk about forgiveness. And the reason I wanted to do this is because it occurred to me that I'm guilty of this as well. I have a number of my short, 20-minute, 10 to 20-minute podcast episodes where there's a few of them where I'm either directly talking about forgiveness or indirectly talking about forgiveness. But when it occurred to me that I never talk about apologizing, it occurred to me hardly anybody is, and hardly anybody does it. So I thought, okay, I need to look into this. And a while back, I had read the book by Lisa Turkis. I can't say her name. I've never been able to say her name. I love this book though. First, Forgiving What You Can't Forget. This is a book that I read during my separation, my very emotionally painful separation. I read that book and it was a lifesaver for me. And I'm very glad that I read it. And she touches a little bit on apologizing. But mostly the book is about forgiveness, as it should be. That's what she was dealing with. She was dealing with forgiving her now ex-husband for his betrayals, which is the place that I was at the time that I read it. When I realized that I don't talk about apologizing, hardly anyone is, I had looked up Brene Brown and found that she had interviewed Dr. Harriet Lerner. And so I got a copy of Harriet Lerner's book on apologizing, and I listened to it on Audible. And even though there's a couple little things that I disagree with her about, she is a licensed licensed psychologist. I think she's a psychologist or psychiatrist, something like that. But she's licensed. I'm not. So I want to give way to her and her expertise. But for the vast majority of the book, I wholeheartedly agree with. Wholeheartedly. And because she's brave enough to tackle this topic. However, I don't like the title of her book. Why Won't You Apologize is the title of Dr. Lerner's book. Why won't you apologize? Now, when I read that, and heard it on the audible, to me, it's like pointing a finger. Why won't you apologize? Why won't you apologize? Nobody likes having a finger pointed at them. And maybe even somebody who needs to apologize, some people say, well, they need to have a finger pointed at them. Well, that may be true and that may be not true, but nobody likes it. And when somebody feels like they've had the finger pointed at them, they really don't want to do it. So I don't like the title, but I still really love the book. Still a really great book. So that's where I want to start. And this is going to be probably a long episode. If it gets really long, I'll stop it and record a second thing to it. In fact, I should check the time. Yeah, okay. So I'll watch the time and I'll break it down into 2 episodes, if need be. And yes, even though that background looks fake, it's not. I'm sitting outside of Starbucks. That is the sky. That is a Starbucks umbrella there behind me. And I have notes and I have my cheater's glasses so I can read my notes. There we go. Because I actually have contacts in. Anybody who knows me personally, I very rarely wear my contacts because I can't read with my contacts. But today, here I go. I've got my cheaters on to read. So 3 pages of notes. And because I've been tackling this topic for a few weeks now, going through that book, and I asked for questions online from people, and I got a few, and so I kind of let those questions direct the topics, and there's a lot of them. So, so who am I directing this to? I am directing this episode mostly to people who actually want to apologize. It's not really, I mean, I welcome everybody to listen, and I think everybody should listen. But the direction of this podcast is for people who realize I need to apologize for something and haven't done it for some reason. And that's where I'm going to start. I want to start with why is it so hard to apologize and what stops people from apologizing. So I do, that's the very first thing on the top there. Okay. First of all, in relation to Dr. Lerner's title of her great book, again, great book. I just don't like the title. Great book though. Pointing Fingers, the Blame Game. Okay. Depending on the harm that was done, the level of the hurt that was done, having somebody point fingers at you, like I already did earlier, playing the blame game, demanding an apology from somebody. And oftentimes, by the way, people have reason to demand an apology. They do have reason. I'm not saying they don't have reason. They do. But when that happens to you, where somebody is pointing at a finger at you and saying, you hurt me, you owe me an apology, that's painful. And a lot of times people will not apologize then because they're like, if you're going to do that, what else are you going to do to me? It creates a level of fear. At minimum, it creates a level of discomfort. And we are created, evolutionarily speaking, and yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm also a former anthropologist, archaeologist. Evolutionarily speaking, we are created to avoid hurt. And so knowing that somebody's pointing the finger at us or playing the blame game that it's all our fault and blah, 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 when we need to apologize, that hurts. So it actually puts a block on us to apologize. And I'm going to say us. I'm going to try and do this episode from a standpoint of needing to apologize, even myself. Because let's face it, we all have things we need to apologize for. No one is immune. So the first one is pointing fingers, the blame game, because that hurts. Second one is ego. I don't need to apologize. I'm better than this. I'm above this. People should just know better who I am. Ego is a bad reason for not apologizing, but ego is a very common issue these days. So I'm going to take a quick drink of my pink drink here. Oh, I needed that. Okay. The next one. Shame. could be shame from a childhood experience. It could be that as a child, you were told you had to apologize, so you did. Instead of being met with mercy or grace and forgiveness, you were met with more anger or told, talked down to, called names, whatever, told that that wasn't a good enough apology, or you're still to blame, or you know, anything like that. Any sense of shame from childhood, or the shame of, listen, it was so bad what I did that I wouldn't be able to apologize enough, or my apology wouldn't be good enough, or they would not accept it. Okay. That's avoidance. Shame will cause you to avoid apologizing, and it's not an excuse. A personality issue. Somebody who needs to see a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist, not just a life coach. Somebody who needs somebody above and beyond. Somebody, say, with, you know, and everybody throws the term around, but somebody who's got narcissistic personality disorder, or borderline personality disorder, or something along those lines, where they can't even see that they've done something wrong. Okay. These are people that likely you're not going to get an apology from. So that's how it is. Denial. Denial. Yes, I did something wrong, but it wasn't that bad, so they should just get over it. That's an excuse. But really that denial probably comes actually from either ego or shame. Lying. Okay, these are the gaslighters. Okay. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, there can be video of the incident. There can be 100 witnesses who all agree to what they say. There can be the victim of it saying this is what happened, but the person who needs to apologize is like, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I didn't do that. So somebody who's typically is a gaslighter and didn't just lies that that's what happened. Okay, that's somebody who's not going to apologize. Victim blaming. Deciding that the person who was hurt is faking it, but they weren't really hurt that bad, or it wasn't that serious, or they should just get over it, or I didn't really mean it, so they should just suck it up. Okay, victim blaming. Victim blaming will prevent somebody from apologizing. Okay, now these reasons for not apologizing, some of them are actually kind of understandable, like the shame, or having somebody point fingers at them and just making them feel like they're not even human because of what they did. Those are understandable, but they're not an excuse. Anytime an apology is owed, for the most part, there are a couple exceptions, which I'll talk about later, but anytime an apology is owed, an apology should be done. There's no real legitimate excuse for not apologizing. There are times when you should not apologize, and I've got that coming up later, but there's no legitimate excuse for not apologizing. And that can be a hard pill to swallow because it is so hard. I love that song from the band Chicago. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry. The whole time I was working on this talk, that song just kept going over and over in my head, because it is super hard to say that I'm sorry. And what that is helpful is for people that are hoping for or anticipating or expecting an apology, the ones that need to forgive or maybe even apologize in return. If you know, they could give grace to that person who caused them the harm, chances are better they'll get the apology. Because it is hard, and I'll talk more about why it's hard. Now, if you've got these, you know, these more severe reasons for not apologizing, but there's something in the back of your mind. Just, oh God, I have this, it's, bothering me in my head, or it's bothering me in my heart, that me, I really should apologize, but you just can't do it. Then you should get some help for it. You could get a coach if if you think a coach should be adequate. But remember that people like me, I am a coach. Okay. And I want to stress this because this can be a very serious topic. In my situation, this is an extremely serious topic. Apologies, because the person who needed to apologize to me and to my family never did, and truly needed a psychologist. Just really needed some severe help. And that was not going to happen. And so we had to go in and get therapy, because one of the reasons we needed to get therapy was to recognize that this person was never going to apologize for what we did. And I'll talk more about that as I go on in the notes. As a coach, I can't coach people who are that far away from being able to give an apology. Somebody who needs a licensed therapist or counselor or psychologist should go to somebody like that. A coach is for somebody who's a typical, normal, healthy person. Because a coach's job is not to tell you what to do. A coach's job is to get you to ask yourself questions so you can make your own decisions. So the decision is, do I have to apologize? Well, then my job would be to sit with you and discuss some things that I will be talking about here, and get you to stop and think about it. Oh, maybe I do need to apologize. Okay, now how am I going to do it? Again, I would sit down and encourage you to ask yourself certain questions, guide you along, ask yourself certain questions as to how you would do it. Although I will provide a guideline on how to actually apologize later on. It's in my notes. Okay. So why apologize? There are a lot of people who believe that apologies are a waste of time, a waste of energy, pointless. People don't forgive anyway. Why should I do it? Well, here are the reasons why you should apologize. Number one, consider the definition of love. And I mean the definition of real love, which I'm actually going to be talking about in weeks from now. There are multiple different kinds of love. And so I don't want to get into that now, because that's for a future talk. But the best definition of love for any relationship is willing the good of the other person. Okay. So if you want to will the good of the other person, if you truly love this person, it can be your child, your spouse, boyfriend or girlfriend, parent, cousin, best friend, coworker. It can be anybody. Even it can be an intense relationship or a non-intense relationship. If you have any real love for this person, willing the good of the other person, think about it. If you have hurt that person and you are willing the good of that person, then of course you want to apologize, because you want to do something to waylay their hurt. Another reason why you want to apologize. Apologizing is an act of bravery. As I pointed out, for reasons why people don't apologize, the first one is blame game. Because it's so hard. People don't make it easy to apologize. It takes bravery. It takes maturity. It takes an emotionally evolved person. It takes integrity, because you're taking responsibility for your own actions. That is why it's important to apologize. It's soul cleansing. Okay. It gives you, apologizing to someone can give you a spiritual restart. Maybe the relationship is in danger of being done and over with, and this is a chance to save it. Okay. And the last one I have written down here, because apologizing is a stronger foundation for someone to get onto a healing journey. And it can be your own healing journey, me, the one apologizing. It can be my healing journey. The person across from me who's I'm asking forgiveness from, it can help give a stronger foundation to their healing journey together. An apology is really key for a fulfilling healing journey for both people. Okay. So, contemplating. Do I need to apologize? Okay. Do I need to apologize? Okay. Here are some questions to ask yourself as you contemplate. Do I need to do this or not? Number one, did I do wrong? This is a basic yes or no question. Did I do wrong? If you're even slightly leaning to yes, the answer is yes. Or did I neglect to do right? Neglecting to do something right can be just as damaging as doing something wrong. Okay. Standing by as someone else is getting hurt and you know someone else is getting hurt and you are capable of helping and you don't. That's a wrong. Okay, another question. Even though my intention was not to do harm, is it their perception that I caused harm? Yes or no? I'm going to talk more about intention and perception later, but as much as intention matters, perception means more. I may not have intended to do wrong. But if wrong happened anyway, even if I did it accidentally and the other person was hurt, then yes, I owe them an apology. Okay. Oh, here's my question right there. What matters more in this scenario, my intention or their perception? Both are important. Perception does have greater weight. You are in your shoes, and I talk about shoes later on, but you are standing in your shoes. In other words, you have your perspective of what's going on. Okay. The person across from you who's been hurt, they are in their shoes. They have their own perspective of what's going on. If you're questioning their perception, and this is what I talk about in a later blog that I'll be talking about more later weeks from now. If you can find a way to mentally, in your head, freeze the dispute, get your mind out of your own body, put your mind to the side of the two of you, look at the body language of the two of you. Don't just look at yourself, look at the body language of both of you. Then continue to move around and put yourself in the other person's head. Step into their shoes. Look at things from their side. And as I like to say when I tell people to step into the other person's shoes, no matter what you perceive from their side, remember that their shoes don't fit your feet right. Meaning they've got other triggers in their past that could lead them to experience more pain in this scenario than, say, you would have. So even though your intention is important, their perception is more important. Another thing that I like to say with this is, and actually I learned this when I was going through my separation, my own life coach taught me this. Try to give people that you're interacting with the benefit of the doubt. We have really, as a society, we have thrown out the whole idea of intention. We have decided that intention means nothing and that perception only matters. And while perception does have more weight, we have to bring back intention. We cannot continue going around saying that every interaction we have somebody, that person is automatically has a nefarious motive. They very well might, but they might not. So yes, your intention does matter. And if we expect people to honor what our intentions are, then we have to honor theirs first. How important is this relationship to me? Even if you think the person who is hurt is overreacting, if this relationship means a lot to you and you want to rescue this relationship, then I strongly suggest really asking yourself again, did I somehow hurt this person? Did I do wrong, or did I neglect to do something I should have done? An apology, again, an apology is the best foot forward in reconciling. Okay, here's another one. Even if this relationship is not important to me, does this person deserve an apology? Okay. Everyone deserves an apology. Your greatest enemy deserves an apology. I have apologized to people in my life that I cannot stand. Even though I can't stand them, there's only a couple people in the whole world, in the whole universe. And I can promise you that person is not going to watch this episode. If they do, you could blow me over with a feather. I will be completely shocked. But I have, in fact, written a letter and apologized and wholeheartedly meant it, hoping to have some peace between us. Not a relationship, but peace. This person did not accept my apology. Did not. But even though I can't stand that person, I personally feel that person is abusive, certainly is abusive to me. That person still deserved an apology for me apologizing for my part. No one is a completely unworthy person except maybe you know, really massive serial killer or somebody along those lines. Okay. A massive criminal maybe. But for the most part, going back to, well, just the whole idea that every human being is a person of value. So yes, everyone deserves an apology when we do that. Okay. I'm only on to page 2. There's 3, and I keep hitting the table. There's 3 pages and I'm just getting on to page 2. Okay. More questions here. Should I get an impartial outside perspective? If you are very much confused yet as to whether or not you owe somebody an apology, if you've done, if you know, maybe they aren't a very abusive person, okay? Then maybe they don't deserve an apology if they are very abusive to you, if they are very toxic to you. Or maybe you're not sure if you hurt this person. Maybe you think you did, but you don't know. Or maybe you know you did something, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is you did. Just because somebody says that you hurt them doesn't mean you know what you did, because you had no intentions of hurting that person. Honestly, no intentions. You might not know what you did. That's okay. They might think you're a terrible person because you're like, I have no idea. You're not a terrible person just because you don't know. You might just genuinely not know. That can happen. So should you get an impartial outside perspective? Yes. However, what makes someone impartial? Okay. You cannot go ask your one best friend who's in an emotional competition with your other best friend whether or not you owe that person an apology. If there is some sort of emotional, immature competition between them for your attention, that is not an impartial person. So you can't ask your mother if you owe your spouse an apology. No, that is not an impartial person. Even if your mother means well and wants the relationship to work, that is not an impartial person. Okay? Not. You're their child. They're always going to stand up for you. And this can go on and on and on. I want to go all the way down to the bottom of the list of, not bottom, but because actually, maybe this is the person at the top of the list. But even if you go to, say, a therapist, a really good therapist is probably the best person to go to ask, or a life coach or somebody like that. But somebody who's really good at being a therapist or really good at being a life coach, even they will recognize that because of their own history, their own hurts, their own shames from their own childhood, of memories coming back of them being in situations themselves and remembering how those did or did not work out, even they will not be 100% impartial. Okay. For example, if you go to a divorce coach and you want to reconcile with your spouse and you go to them, say, do I owe this person an apology? They're going to lean more towards no, because they're looking at you getting divorced, not you reconciling. So, but if an impartial person recognizes that they are not 100% impartial, that is probably the best person to get a third party perspective from, because they'll be checking themselves inside. Okay. If you're spiritual, if you're a spiritual person, a religious person, not religious, but spiritual, or, you know, of whatever faith, religion, blah, 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 that you subscribe to. I'm Christian myself. Okay. I'm Catholic Christian. If you're spiritual, pray or meditate about it. Take some time and let yourself go quiet and see what happens. See what your own subconscious brings forward. Maybe something that you forgot, or maybe it'll give you added weight to an exchange you had with someone. Strongly suggest that. Give your own internal spirit an opportunity to tell you. Okay. Big question. When should I not apologize? That's a big question. Okay. First off, is the accusation unfounded? Is someone blaming you for something that you absolutely did not do? That happens. If you absolutely did not do that, do not apologize. Do not apologize for something you did not do. Two, have I already apologized? Okay. You know, sometimes we apologize and the other person just doesn't receive it. Maybe we didn't do a good enough apology. Maybe we were too flippant about it, too fast. Maybe we didn't set the atmosphere for it properly, which I'll talk more later on. If the person we didn't consider enough how much the other person was injured by what we did or did not do. So maybe I have already apologized, but maybe I need to apologize again. Maybe I need to do it better. Okay, that can happen. However, if you've already repeated the apology, if you've already wholeheartedly meant it, you must wholeheartedly mean it. If you've already apologized a couple of times, maybe 2, 3 times, and you fully meant it and you fully put yourself out there, and they still want another apology, don't become a doormat. If there's one way to become a doormat for somebody, it's repeatedly apologizing. Don't do that. That is not a good idea. Okay. What if I don't mean it? Then don't you dare apologize. If you don't mean it, don't do it. Okay. Don't apologize just to keep the peace. Okay. A true apology. Here, this is what I wrote. A true apology is a spiritual gift with vast potential to do good or cause more harm. So if you don't mean it, wait until you do. But don't wait too long. Okay. Over apologizing to keep peace. Do not apologize to keep peace. Over apologizing to keep peace demeans the value and takes away the opportunity for another to apologize when they should. If you want to keep peace, let's say you're in an argument and the other person has said something that hurt you really bad, and you kind of had an exchange of hurting each other, right? If you apologize and take full responsibility for everything that happened, if you apologize so the other person doesn't have to apologize, you are actually devaluing the whole concept of apologizing, and that person then loses the opportunity to take responsibility. Now, they might appreciate it in the moment, but in the long run, that is detrimental to a relationship. Every person in a relationship should be taking responsibility for their own wrongdoings. You should not take responsibility for someone else's wrongdoing. And I'll talk about that more in a bit. Am I apologizing for my reactionary abuse? And I do not like the term reactionary abuse. Okay. But people who are particularly narcissistic tendencies or stuff like that, they will, poke and prod you to get you angry, and you're trying hard to be mature and hold it in. And then finally you can't take it and you blow up. Well, now you've hurt them because you blew up, but they were actually being covertly abusive. Do not apologize for that. You demean yourself. That is not something to apologize for. Sorry, but no. That is an opportunity to reflect on your relationship. Go to a therapist. And if you want coaching to help with becoming resilient after a breakup, you can see me. But when it comes to actually deciding, am I in an abusive relationship? Start with a therapist, start with a counselor, start with domestic abuse hotline, and go through a checklist, talk to somebody and find out, is this actually a very unhealthy relationship? Because if it is, don't apologize, just get out. Okay. What happened to forgive and forget? I thought they loved me, and love means never having to say, I'm sorry. Okay. This is where I'm going to swear. I'm just calling bullshit on that. Just flat out bullshit. Forgive and forget is bullshit. And the whole concept is, if you love somebody, it means they don't have to say, I'm sorry. Bullshit. If your relationship with somebody is something that you truly value, you are open to apologizing and you are open to forgiving. Be accountable. Truly loving people have integrity and are accountable for their own actions and inactions. Okay. Okay. Now here's one of the reasons why people don't apologize. Because the other person won't accept the apology, right? Okay, so that is the next question here. What if I apologize and they do not accept my apology? I'm not going to apologize because they're not going to accept it anyway, whatever. Okay. First of all, if you are apologizing to try and elicit a specific response from the other person, like if you are trying to get them to forgive you, or if you are trying to get them to change their behavior or see you in a different light or whatever, these are forms of control. You are trying to control the other person. You know, we've got two major problems with society today. The first one being false pride and ego. The second one being control. I didn't understand this until I went through coaching during my separation. But I learned going through that how much people try to control other people in ways we don't recognize. You know, we are really bad at, well, I'm not going to tell you how that hurt me because then you're going to get upset. No, if somebody did something that hurt you, it is your job to stand up for yourself and draw a boundary and say, hey, this hurt. And if you do it again, I'm walking out, or I'm, you know, going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I'm going to call a therapist. I'm going to, you know, whatever. And setting boundaries is a different podcast episode that I've actually already recorded. It's going to be coming out about the same time as this one, roughly. But if we hide our true feelings, if we hide our truths from somebody because of how they might react to it, that's controlling them. Okay. We do way too much of trying to force people to respond the way we want them to, instead of giving them the freedom to respond how they choose to respond. Okay. So whether or not they accept the apology, so what? Stop trying to control them. That is on them, whether they get to choose that. You don't get to choose that. Okay. Why don't they accept my apology? Well, what's the motive? What is your motive for apologizing? Go back to the list of reasons why. Okay. Go back to the definition of love. Okay. Don't apologize to get forgiveness. Apologize because you love this person, because you are willing what's best for the other person, and also willing what's best for yourself, to get you both started on a wonderful foundation, beginning of the journey for healing. Okay. Because it's an act of bravery for yourself, because it's a cleansing of your own soul. Okay. At an attempt to save the relationship, to give the other person the opportunity to respond how they choose to respond. And if they do respond with forgiveness, then maybe you have a chance, an opportunity to move forward. So if those are your motives, then you should still do it. Acceptance, love and acceptance. Okay. If you truly love this person, truly, then you're going to give them an apology because they deserve it. And the best that you can do is accept how they choose to take it. And if they take it really bad and you really, really meant it, again, you can apologize a second time or a third time, not more than that. But that's the question then, isn't it? How much do you love this person? Do you really love them? And can you accept how they choose to respond? You have to. You must accept how they choose to respond. Apologies, real, true apologies require four things. Okay. Honesty, vulnerability, intention. I have no idea why those balloons came up. Intention and perspective. Okay. Because those balloons came up and I have no idea why my computer did that. I lost my spot here. Honesty, intention, no, honesty, vulnerability, intention, and perspective. Okay. Altogether, those add up to integrity. You need real, honest integrity in yourself. If you really believe that you've done wrong, even if you don't know what it is you did wrong, gather those things together: honesty, vulnerability, intention, and perspective. You've got to be honest with yourself about what you did or did not do. You've got to understand that you must open yourself up and be vulnerable, be real, be true, cling to your sense of value, your morals and value system for how you live your life, your intention. Go back to whatever it is you did or did not do and reconsider what your intentions were at the time, because remember, intentions do matter. And then consider the other person's perspective. Remember, perspective has more weight than intention. All of this equates to integrity. Here's a quick list of things that apologizing does and does not do, because apologies do not automatically fix everything. Okay. And I'm just going to slowly read these off, basically. What apologizing does and does not do. Apologizing does provide an opportunity for healing. Yes, it does. Provides an opportunity for healing. Apologizing does not make everything better. There is more that needs to be done. Apologizing does open doors of communication. Yes, it does. Apologizing does not automatically clear the air. Okay, even though the doors of communication have opened, that does not guarantee that proper communication will happen. Apologizing does point to a path of reconciliation if done properly. Okay, you have to mean the apology. You've got to mean it. It can point to a path of reconciliation. Apologizing does not guarantee that path is the right path. It doesn't guarantee reconciliation or that anyone will go down that path. So even though reconciliation or apologizing can point to a path towards reconciliation, does not mean reconciliation will happen. Apologizing is one thing. Forgiving is another thing. Reconciliation is a whole different thing. These are three distinct, different things. Too many people equate them. They do not equate. They are three distinct, different things. Apologizing, forgiving, reconciling. They are not all the same. Apologies can happen without forgiveness or reconciliation. Forgiveness can happen without apologies and without reconciliation. Reconciliation, real, true reconciliation, requires both apologizing and forgiving. Apologizing does lead to personal growth if done properly, if it is done wholeheartedly. Even if the other person does not forgive you, it is a first step for yourself to grow personally and to evolve as a human being. Apologizing does not automatically make a person a grown-up. It does not automatically mean that you are evolved. There is still work to be done. If whatever happened doesn't spur you to make changes, lasting changes to who you are, the apology means nothing. This is key. If the apology does not spur you to make lasting changes, your apology meant nothing. A true apology requires personal evolution. Unfortunately, some use apologies as a path to do more harm, not make things better. Flippant apologies, guilt trip apologies. Well, I'm sorry. Eye roll apologies, sarcastic apologies. Okay. They just demean the other person's emotional state. You just made things worse. Don't do that. The person on the other side of this equation, because you've got apology on one side, forgiveness on the other side of this equation. People on the forgiveness side, they can do that too. They can also do more harm than make things better. This really just comes to people not giving each other grace or mercy, which is sad. It happens all the time. So this is now the big question, and I'm looking at how much time. I'm going to go ahead and make this a long episode and try to get this in, because I'm finishing up the second page and getting on to the third page. So here we go at the bottom page 2 of my notes. The big question, how do I apologize? This is where I'm getting into the nitty gritties of the how-tos. Here we go. Number 1, set the stage. And when I say set the stage, what I mean is, don't give somebody a gift like flowers or jewelry or whatever. Don't do that. No flowers, no gifts. If you give flowers, okay, in lieu of an apology or a gift or whatever, an ice cream cone, if you give a gift in lieu of an apology, it's the same as demeaning the other person in a way. Okay, it means, okay, oh, I'm sorry I hurt you, but it's not important enough for me to actually discuss it with you. You can give a gift or flowers along with an apology if you really want to. I can tell you there's one time when I would have accepted flowers from my ex-husband as an apology. One time. And that is if, or I shouldn't say one time, but one scenario. If the card with the flowers actually also said on there, I have a standing appointment with a therapist every other Thursday at 2:00. Okay. And if he kept that appointment, or especially even better yet, if it had been a couples appointment and I'm inviting you to join me at couples therapy, I would have loved those flowers. Okay. But a substitution for an apology to set the stage or whatever is not a good idea. Don't take them out to dinner to a public restaurant. That is not what I mean by set the stage. I mean, we need to create quiet, calm atmosphere where you are not, no, this is not going to be interrupted. Okay. Phones are shut off. Distractions are shut off. The dog has been put out the potty and given a bone, so the dog will not interrupt. Okay. Kids aren't around to hear this in case things go south. That's what I mean by set the stage. Okay. And you've done your contemplation. You know what it is that you've done. Okay. You know. And you know how important this relationship is to you. That is setting the stage. Okay. Number 2. Number 2 has various things in it. I call this rescue. Rescue, the word rescue, R-E-S-C-U-E. And the reason I call it rescue is because why are you apologizing? Because you are trying to rescue something. You are either trying to rescue this relationship, or you are trying to rescue the other person from this pain, or you are trying to rescue yourself from this guilt that you feel, or you are trying to rescue your integrity or whatever it is. Apologizing is a rescue mission of something. So, rescue. Let me go through each letter first, and then I'll go through them in depth. So first, rescue. R is responsibility. E is empathy. S is specifics. C is change. U is understand. And E is expectations. I'll say them again. R, responsibility. E, empathy. S, specifics. C, change. U, understand. E, expectations. Okay, so I'm going to go through each one. R, responsibility. When you apologize, take full responsibility for your part. Whether your responsibility is 100% at fault, 50% at fault, or 20% at fault, or whatever percentage of fault you are at. That when I'm taking responsibility, I am taking responsibility. I'm taking 100% responsibility for my percentage of the fault. If I am 20% at fault, I am 100% taking responsibility for my 20%. If I'm 50% at fault, I am 100% taking responsibility for my 50%. Keep the focus on me. You keep the focus on you. You're apologizing. When I apologize, I am keeping the focus on myself. Say something in terms of like, say the person I'm apologizing to, I'll say, Linda, I take full responsibility for talking behind your back. I should not have done that. That was wrong of me. Okay, so name a person I take full responsibility for and name what you did. Okay, in that case, if I talk to Linda behind her back, that's 100% responsibility. I never should have. That's gossip. I should not have done it. So name of the person I take full responsibility for and name it. I name what I did. E, empathy. Validate the hurt. Linda, I realize that by talking about you behind your back, I caused you real harm. I caused you to hurt. I caused other people to talk to you that was demeaning. Okay. Validate the hurt. I validated the hurt. S, specifics. Be specific. This is where you can say, I am sorry. I am sorry that I did that to you. What happened was no one else's business, and this is my fault. Okay. I am specific. I stated what I did again, and I did it in detail because I'm saying I knew it was no one else's business. You know, I say, I am sorry that I did that. I know full well it was no one else's business what happened. I know that you shared that in confidence with me. Okay, I am being specific about what I did wrong. Only state what you know you did or did not do. Do not take on their side of the blame or anyone else's. Maybe Linda did something back to me. This is not the opportunity, not the time. This is not the time. This is not the time for me to say what she did. Maybe I did it out of unconsciously did it, or not unconsciously, but subconsciously did it because maybe I'm angry and I have some bitterness towards her. You know, maybe some people would say, well, she deserved it. No, she did not. Okay. I am taking 100% responsibility for what I did. This is not a time to talk about what she may or may not have done. Okay. So specifics. Don't bring up what does not belong to you. I am not going to bring up what does not belong to me. I'm going to bring up what does belong to me. C, change. State how you intend to change to prevent this from happening in the future. You must mean this. That doesn't mean you might not do wrong again in the future, but these are the actions you are taking, not will take, but are taking today and every day to make changes and grow as a person. I actually need a better example for this one for change, but like, for example, betrayal. Okay. Betray someone in, you know, a marriage or whatever. Okay. In a marriage, stick with the marriage. Okay. I betrayed you. I am going to go to therapy. I've made an appointment. I've called, I have made the appointment. If it's something like that, I suggest you make the appointment before you sit down to do the apology. Okay. I have made the appointment. I will be doing this weekly, bi-weekly, whatever. I am making this change. You've got to mean it. I said this before and I'm saying it again. If you don't intend fully, wholeheartedly intend to make a change, your apology is meaningless. Okay. You understand. This is an opportunity to ask open-ended questions and allow the hurt person to express their hurts. Okay. What's an open-ended question? A question that is not just yes or no. For example, a question like, did this hurt you really bad? Okay, that's a yes or no question. That's not an open-ended question. That's a lousy question. That's a terrible question. Did this apology help you? Terrible question. Terrible. No. Open-ended question. And this is the hardest part of apologizing, because guess what? This is when they get to let out how they hurt. These are questions like, okay, how how are you handling things since this happened? How, how are you, have you been able to, find help after what happened? How is this making you feel? How have I made you feel? How how did I hurt you? You know, um, trying to think of another open-ended question, but you want open-ended questions, questions where they can actually open up and express how they feel. Okay. So, this is the main reason why people avoid apologizing anyway, because this is where you have to face, or we, those of us apologizing, where we have to face the brunt of what we did. Okay. No one wants to hear what they have done wrong or how they've done wrong. But this is important for the other person's healing. If you want that other person to feel better, you've got to give them this opportunity to let it out. Here's key. You've got to remember why you are doing this. You are doing this to relieve yourself of this burden, and you are doing this to give them a better opportunity for healing from what happened. Do not defend or shift blame. Do not do that. Okay. In the scenario that I talked about with this Linda, okay, who I apologize to for talking behind your back. As I said, maybe she did something and maybe it just happened because I was somewhere deep down wanting to get back because of something that she did to hurt me. Tough. I'm apologizing for what I did. This is not the opportunity for me to bring it up. This is not the opportunity for me to say, but you know, I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't. No, 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 no. They might spew. They might react instead of respond. And there's a difference. Remember, I talk about this. There's a difference between reacting and responding. They might react instead of respond. That's their choice. Okay. This gives them an opportunity to verbally process their feelings, their thoughts. They very well might overreact, but they'll get through it if they can go ahead and let it out. If you stop them from doing that, you force a plug on that, A, you're back to controlling them, and B, you actually delay their processing. Let them process. Think of it as victims in a criminal court of law victim statement. And now this is where I have a lot of experience on this, because I and my family have been on the victim side of a criminal court case. I'm not going to talk about the case. It happened years ago, but my entire family was deeply, deeply victimized by someone. And there was a criminal case, and the person was found guilty, and the person went to prison, and the person died in prison. We never got an apology, not even the beginnings of an apology. Okay. Never happened. It's never going to happen. And my family and I have been on a journey of forgiving this person who really did something unforgivable. A lot of people would say this is unforgivable. I have forgiven this person, but I don't forgive and forget. I have learned lessons. Okay. But I have forgiven this person, and I know some members of my family have forgiven, but some members have not yet. And it's been a few years, and that is okay. Everybody has their own forgiveness journey. It's okay. But my now husband at the time, my now ex-husband, he's the one who stood up and gave the victim statement. The reason courts do the victim statement is for the very reason that it helps put victims on the beginning paths of forgiveness, or sorry, of healing. Well, forgiveness too, but of the healing journey with or without the forgiveness. So think of it that way. This person gets this opportunity to do that. However, there is a caveat. Don't accept abuse. Okay. If what you did is the equivalent of putting a dent in a person's car and their reaction is the equivalent of you set it on fire and you threw it off of a cliff, no. If it gets to be like that, which means it's become an abusive reaction, put a boundary in place. Listen, I know that I'm in the midst of apologizing to you, and you have every right to be hurt by what I did, but I feel that this reaction you're having is out of proportion from what happened. So I'm gonna go take a walk and I'll be back in 20 minutes and maybe we can continue a conversation, but I need to take a break from this. Okay? Exit the situation if it's becoming abusive. If it continues to be abusive, exit it entirely. Just exit it entirely. Reaction is understandable, even if it's a little bit over the top. Way over the top, that's not okay. It must be in proportion to what happened. And us who are doing the asking of forgiveness, us who are doing the apology, we need to be open to maybe they do deserve to have more reaction than we would like. Okay, so we've got to have some, this is where you got to have intention and perspective. You've got to be on top of that. Okay. E, expectations. And my phone or my laptop is getting into the sun, so I'm going to make some adjustments here. Get this back into the shade. Moved on me. Hold on. Move that over there. Okay. So here we go. Where was I? E, expectations. Okay, so this is the last one. Remove all expectations from your mind as possible. And what am I saying? I'm saying whether they react or respond, again, I said, unless it's over the top. If it's way over the top, no. But however they choose to react or respond, if they choose to forgive or not forgive, if they choose to walk away and not continue the discussion, or they want to go into depth of the conversation, how they respond or react, unless it becomes abusive, is none of your business. It is not for you to control. When you go into an apology, erase as many expectations of how you feel that person should respond as much as possible. Okay, I know that sounds hard to do. It is not up to us, the ones apologizing, to dictate how they do or do not feel, or how they do or do not react or respond. We can hope that they respond and not react. We can hope that they forgive. And if we want reconciliation, we can hope that they want to reconcile. Can't make them, nor should you, nor should we. I learned that the hard way. Doesn't work. If we expect a certain response, chances are we'll actually prevent it more than bring it forward, because they will feel that pressure from us. And they've already been hurt. If we're apologizing to them, we've already hurt them. We don't need to hurt them more. Do not expect them to forgive immediately. They may need time. They might never get there. That is not for us to control. Yeah. And again, however, the caveat, their response, their reaction should be at least somewhat proportionate to the harm done. Maybe a little bit more than, but not over the top. Okay, so, oh, one more thing about expectations and how they may react or respond. Their initial reaction may not be their truth. It may just be emotions, anger, hurt bubbling up. Us apologizing may come out of this new people, a new individual, because of putting ourselves on a path for new growth. They might, the same also might come out of it as new people from their own growth from it. but don't expect that what first comes out of them is their truth. This is why it's good to, during the understanding phase, the open-ended questions, give them a chance to process it. That's the only way they're going to be able to uncover their truth, and you can learn what it actually is. Okay. You're really giving them a gift in this apology and in allowing them the time and space and the safety. Give them the safety to feel their hurts and to process them verbally, even if it hurts you a little bit. Even if it hurts you a lot because it's something that was really bad, take it. Just take it. Again, not overly over the top, but if it's proportionate, take it. Okay. Final thoughts. All of this from beginning to end is a process. We are evolving human beings, hopefully. If we're not evolving, then that's not good. We should be evolving. But all of this from beginning to end, from the hurting to the apologizing and taking responsibility to the forgiving, and if it goes into reconciliation, all of it is a journey. All of it is a process. All of it is opportunities for self-growth. The gifts we are giving somebody when we apologizing to them is we are giving them the gift of reclaiming their own power, big or small. Let's say it's a fender bender. Let's say it's my own fault and I caused a fender bender. I nicked somebody's bumper and put a dent into it. Okay, if we have to pull over and go through this, I have now taken away their power to get from point A to point B that they were planning to do. I have taken away some of their power. By apologizing, even though we still have to go through the rigmarole and they still can't get to point B as they planned, I'm giving them back the opportunity to reclaim some of their power by apologizing and taking responsibility for what I did. Apologizing provides opportunities for growth, but not guarantees. Growth is hard. Growth requires looking inward and seeing what needs to be fixed. That's uncomfortable. Sometimes that downright hurts and nobody likes to do that. But if we take the time to do that and do the work to do that, how we come out on the other side is worth it. It's so worth it. Do your own healing outside of this. Don't be responsible for their healing. That's on them. Be responsible for your own. Remember what led you to do this in the first place, and that can help direct you in how to heal. Tap into, we can and should tap into our own spiritual strengths for this. This really is a spiritual action, a gift, a spiritual gift for somebody else and for ourselves. Use this as an opportunity to grow our own spiritual strengths further for ourselves. And shoot, I was going to say something else about that. And keep an open heart. Keep an open heart. Even if they don't forgive right now, they might come back later. And even if they're not taking responsibility for whatever, if they also did wrong now, they might later. So keep an open heart. You just don't know where things can go after a heartfelt apology. Real miracles can happen with heartfelt apologies. Sometimes. Once in a while. But it's worth it if it does. So, okay. I hope you enjoy this. If you've got any questions, or if you want to schedule a coaching, shoot me an email at humorinchaos@gmail.com, or you can find me on my website, www.humorinchaos.com. And yeah, you guys all, I'm excited to have been able to share this with you because, you know, this is hard. This is hard stuff to talk about. It's hard stuff to contemplate. It's really hard to take responsibility, but it's time. I feel it's time for us to normalize apologies again, taking personal responsibility again. I think it's time to normalize giving people space and grace to do these things. I think it's time to normalize integrity again. And so So, my love goes out to all of you on your journeys of personal growth. Thank you.